Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I turned the Sahaara bra pattern into a bodysuit. I really love how this turned out. It's sort of like a mullet situation, so it's very sedate and sort of normal in the front, and then a little bit of party in the back. So it does have the full bra in it, in that it has the full support from a back band as well as a non-stretch firm frame in the front, and then the rest of the bodysuit is sort of a stretch material and it's been fully lined. I've done a lot of fun little interesting details that I'd like to show you along the way, including some extra bling here on the straps. I really love turning a bralette or bra pattern into a bodysuit because I feel like it gives me all of that firm support that I love from wearing bras, and then allows me to not wear anything additional or extra because this sort of covers everything all in one go. If you're looking for a more in-depth tutorial of how to sew the Sahaara bra pattern, I do have tutorials for those on my channel for all three views, and I can link them up in the iCards above here. And I would also suggest looking at Ruby's Bras because they have a wonderful tutorial as well for their pattern. Instead, today's video is more just going to be going along the slight differences that you'll need to make in order to adapt your Sahaara bra pattern into a bodysuit. I'm using a self-drafted bodysuit, but you could also do this with any other bodysuit that you currently have that fits you. So let's move on to our table and get started.
So taking a look at the pattern here, for the body of the suit, I have used a tutorial that I've already had on my channel, and of course I'll try to link it up in the iCards here, where you take your measurements to draft a bodysuit. So my fabric, when I tested it, it had about 30% maximum stretch. So my bodysuit, I decided to err on the side of caution and do a 15% reduction. This way the fabric isn't pulled to its maximum extent, but it still has some negative ease so that it should fit tightly around the body. Now, the only thing, if you have a bodysuit pattern that you really like, you can go ahead and use that as well in order to adapt it to the Sahaara bra. So I've taken the frame of the bra here, and I just lined the bottom of this sort of cut piece along with the under bust line. So this is a line when I was drafting my pattern that represented my under bust. So I would have my full bust and shoulders and all the stuff up here. So I just aligned my Sahaara with that under bust line there, and then of course copied over the top of that frame, and you can see how that matches up completely. The rest of the bodysuit from the under bust down was drafted to my measurements, but if you have another bodysuit pattern that you already like or that you know fits you, of course you can go ahead and use it and just append this frame up onto the top of the pattern itself. So that is the front. Of course, this is cut on the fold here, so this represents half of my front. So here's my back piece, and it kind of doesn't look like much, but basically what we have here is here's the center back of my thong right here, and then I've just curved this up to meet myself at my high hip mark, which is where the front of the pattern meets as well. So if I was making this a more full coverage bottom, I would of course have fabric that connects in here, but right now this is all going to be open with the buttocks showing. For the back, I decided I wanted this really dramatic deep V back. I've still kept my same side seam lines here, but I've really cut out and carved the back piece here so that it will cut almost down to my high hip point as well. My idea with this is that I'm still going to use the Sahaara backband pattern, and that is actually going to connect at the side seam right about there. So you'll have the back band, which connects with your hook and eye closure, and then this opening that will be in the center back. And I think that'll look nice and sexy, but still be very secure, because you're essentially wearing the entire bra, right? You have the back band and the front frame and all that stuff. All of that structure is still in there. And then this will just be showing and cut out in the back. So with my pattern decided on, of course, I needed to cut out all of my fabrics. So first piece I have is my front bodysuit. Again, like I said, that pattern piece was cut on the fold. So this, looks pretty normal, pretty everything like that. We have sort of a French cut high leg here, which is my preference. And then of course you have that same frame opening that you would see in the Sahaara bralette. Now, I've also cut out a layer of sheer cup lining in a sort of my nude color, the idea being that it would be pretty much inconspicuous and that you won't see it at all. And that's actually going to be sandwiched in between the front fabric here and my lining. So the lining is done in a micro mesh fabric. Again, really, really stretchy, lightweight, breathable, all that stuff. But it'll be a little bit nicer to have the lining. That way all of my seams are covered up. So it'll be the lining. Then I'm going to float that sheer panel in the middle between the lining and the fashion fabric. That way I have the stability, but there's no change to the opacity. And then lastly, we'll have the fashion fabric on top. So that allows me to have that nice, firm, sturdy frame where there's no stretch right underneath, not the wire line, but because there's no wire, but you know what I mean. So this is going to be nice, firm, and sturdy, and it looks sort of seamless as it moves from that sturdy frame into the more stretchy body. So that's the front piece. Next, we have the cut pieces. Now these are done exactly as the pattern is. There's no change to it. Originally, I did cut out the lining in that same sort of like nude sheer cup lining, but I decided I didn't like that change in opacity where the body looked a little bit more opaque with the micro mesh and the cups did not. So I went back and recut my lining in a black sheer cup lining. That way it sort of looks very similar to the rest of the bodysuit when it is worn. So I have all my 4 cup pieces, 2 inners and 2 outers, cut in both a fashion fabric and a sheer cup lining. And then lastly, we have our back here. You can see, again, I've cut this both the fashion fabric and a micro mesh lining. And as you can see, it will be quite scandalous. So of course, here's where the butt cheeks will be. We have that nice deep V in the back. And then I've also cut my back band material in both the fashion fabric and a power mesh. And so the back band will actually extend like this from the sides and connect in the center back with a hook and eye closure here. So you will have quite an open backed design on this. With all of my materials cut out, I'm going to go ahead and start sewing things up, starting with my cups. So my cups are going to be constructed just like I always do, and that is taking the fashion fabrics and aligning them along the curved center bust seam, like so. And then taking my lining fabrics and placing those on as well in 4 layers, and then stitching with a 1/4 inch straight stitch along that curved seam. I'm going to go ahead and do that for both of my cups and come back to you. So once you've sewn along that curved cup seam, you can of course fold out both the fashion and the lining fabric like so, just like any other bra cup. I always like to do a line of zigzag stitches down that seam again, just to flatten it out and make sure that everything's laying smoothly. This is an example after I've done that second line of stitching on the cup itself there, and this cup is almost finished. The last step is just to finish the neckline edge, so the edge that will be the center front, with some fold over elastic. I'm going to use fold over elastic quite frequently in this project, as it's going to be finishing most of my edges around my leg holes and my back. So that's something that it's a technique that works really well in a lot of applications. So when I'm doing fold over elastic, I tend to do it in a single pass. That is, I line the edge of my fabric here with that center fold line in the elastic, and then fold the elastic over top, so that it's sort of encasing the seam or sandwiching it, and then I hit it with a zigzag stitch to cover it. When you're sewing with fold over elastic, obviously it is stretchy because it's elastic. And one thing to keep in mind is you do want to keep just a little bit of tension on elastic. So if I'm sewing it, I might keep like a 1/2 inch or an inch worth of extra tension on it like this. That way, when you're finished sewing, it counteracts any stretching that you might be experiencing from the presser foot, and make sure that you have like a smooth seam that isn't sort of like lettucey and wavy. So if you're finding that you have sort of wavy or uneven seams, the best way to do it is just add a little bit more tension while you're sewing it, so that you're actually sewing it on at a slight amount of stretch. Not enough to cause it to buckle, just enough to sort of like cinch it in. So here's what the cups look like with that center front edge finished with a fold over elastic that I've extended just a couple of inches beyond that top point. While I have the fold over elastic out, I'm going to go ahead and finish the back edge as well. So again, taking that fold over elastic, and I'm going to finish the edge of this back scoop with that before I attach it to the rest of the bodysuit. So now that edge has been finished with fold over elastic, it still has the stretchiness needed for the bodysuit, but has a nice clean finish. For me, the hardest part of doing a bodysuit is just thinking through the order that stuff needs to be done in order to have the cleanest finish. So I think that the next step is going to be doing the bottom of the back band. So typically in a bra, this would be one of the last steps that you do because it goes all the way around the bra at the end. But for this bra, the elastic is not going to continue all the way around the full circumference of my body. It's just going to be in the back band, so kind of like a partial band bra. So I'm going to go ahead and finish it now. So I've aligned my fabric with my power mesh with the right sides facing up. Next, I'm going to take my 3/4 of an inch plush elastic, and I'm going to line it with the plush side facing up as well, and then the straight side of the elastic along the straight edge of the bottom of my band. I'm going to sew this as close as I can to the bumpy or picot edges with a zigzag stitch, and then turn that into the inside and finish it with a 3-step zigzag. So here's what it looks like with that bottom edge finished. I'm not going to worry about finishing the top edge just because that can be done later once it's fully integrated into the bodysuit, but this one needed to be done now. So now I can start assembling the pieces together. First, I'm going to start with my back and lay that down with right sides facing up. Then I'm going to have my band pieces, and I'm going to go ahead and pin those into place on either side. Okay, now with the back bands pinned on, we can pull the front piece in the fashion fabric. So I'm going to want the right sides of the fashion fabric touching right sides of fashion fabric. Right, so it's like inside out. And I can go ahead and pin that along the 2 sides there. At the same time, I'm also going to pin in my non-stretch floating frame as well. When everything's said and done, it'll be completely encased inside. You won't be able to see it at all, but it'll give me that additional amount of structure. Okay, now with it all pinned on the sides, I can flip it around to the other side. So now I have the lining of the back showing up, and I can pin in the lining of the front. With everything pinned into place, I can go ahead and take this over to my machine. I'm going to run a 1/4 inch straight stitch along both sides here. There are a lot of layers, but the reason that I'm constructing it in this way is that it leaves it so that there's nothing to finish on the inside. All of my seams will be completely encased inside of the garment, and you'll just have a very smooth finish, and you'll have a garment that is fully lined. So now the side seams have been done. I've also gone ahead and done a second pass with zigzag stitches once I bolt it all to the right side, just to keep it flat, much like we did for the cups. And you can see, so it's fully lined from the inside. You don't really see that floating structure layer very well. And the side seams are nice and clean. There's no sort of excess material there. So I think it looks really good. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my cups into this. Now, the pattern for the Sahaara bra has a really excellent tutorial or instructions on how to fully encase the seams inside with the cups as well. However, since I'm dealing with 3 layers here, 2 layers here, it's a lot of added complexity. I'm actually going to sew this with the seam allowances not encased, so they're going to be sticking towards the inside of the bra, and then I'm just going to cover them up with some underwire channeling. I'm not going to put any wires in, but just to cover it up and keep it looking clean down there. So the first step is to take these bra cups and sew them into their respective holes. So now the cups are in place, I can go ahead and cover up these ugly seam allowances with my underwire channeling. I found for this particular one, it was easier to do one cup and then do the second cup, whereas normally I do one continuous line pivoting at the front. I just felt like in order to get that nice, clean, sharp point, it was easier to do two because I was dealing with so much fabric. So I'm just going to use some black underwire channeling and sew it into place as if I was going to use it for underwires, and just leave it like that to help clean up the inside and offer some additional support and stability along that wire line. So here's what it looks like with that underwire channeling put into place. I think that's really a spectacular finish, and I'm really happy with how that looks. So now it's going to be all about fold over elastic. I'm going to use fold over elastic to finish this upper arm edge of the bra itself. So that's going to be the cup piece, and then extending along the side seam and into that back band piece. So that's going to be finished with fold over elastic, and then finish all of the leg holes with fold over elastic as well. So now I have the legs finished here. You can see where they lie nice and smoothly because I put that little bit of tension on the fold over. And I've also finished the upper band here along the cup and back band. So we are really close to being finished. All that's left to do is the straps and the hook and eye closure in the back. I wanted to do something a little extra fancy with my straps. I've never tried it before, but I've seen it on TaylorMade Shop and it looks really cool. So I've started my straps as normal by putting the slider on, and now I'm going to put my ring on as well. But before I weave the end of this through my slider, I'm going to add a little decorative detail with some extra rings. So I'm going to take 3 rings and place them, 2 of them side by side, and then 1 on top in the center. And I'm going to weave my elastic in and out through those rings. So now when the front of the bra attaches like this, you'll have that little decorative gold detail of the extra hardware there. I just think it looks kind of neat. Coming back over to my bodysuit, I'm just going to take this strap and apply it to the back edge of my back band piece. And with the straps and back attached, it's now finished. I think these straps with the little gold hardware look really, really good. And from the back, I really enjoy how it looks with this back band piece and then open. I hope you've enjoyed this look at how I put together this bodysuit using the Sahaara pattern. I'll see you next time. Take care.